Hey, Rob Brinded here. I'm going to be talking about how to change today, how to play the game, how to play the game within, how to change the software that creates your reality. So, sort of giving you the steps needed to change what you don't like about yourself. So, we jump straight in. I tried to do this before and it was a rubbish video, but I'm going at it a third time. The analogy that I was writing about today was that our reality is very much like VR. So if I take myself, for example, maybe you can, this will work for you, is if I put my VR set on, at first it's exciting and amazing, but just if you imagine you have the same game, you only have one game, and it's your life. And what you're going to find after a while is you're going to have limitations. You're going to be like, oh, I really want to get there, but it's never satisfying when I get to that level, or I can't reach that level, or I'm not good enough at that. And so I keep doing this same behavior where I gain a lot of money and then I lose it, or I want to meet someone, but I don't put myself out there. So you start to see in the game that you've been given that you're kind of limited, and it seems like there's patterns of behavior that keep repeating. So you have this VR set. Now, how do you change that game if it's a VR set? So, well, you know that because it's a VR set, that the game was created using code, and it was set using particular rules in the code. And so when you're playing the game, there's two things you can do. You can try and keep playing the game harder, or you kind of give up and you zone out, and just wish it would get better. Or you just, with discipline and maybe religion or something, you're going to find a way in self-development and gurus. You're going to keep trying harder to play the game, but you keep getting the same result, right? You can do that, or you can find a way to go into the machine, into the coding of that game, and change the coding, because that's the only way you can change the game, right? You can't change the game playing it. It's the operating system that has set up the game that way. And so you have to become an admin to the game and change the game, like recode it, right? Does that make sense? So if we look at, so my girls are shouting in the background. I don't think you'll be able to hear it. If that's that's the VR game. So let's just take it off and imagine now that there's me here and I'm looking at my reality, my world. So what I can do is I can play the game as hard as I can, but I've done that. And I thought that when I became super successful and, I was part of a winning, I was part of a winning football team, and I would feel fulfilled, but I didn't. It was kind of like, completely empty. Or when I have that body, then I'll be happy. Or when I have that amount of money, I'll be happy. But what I've seen is that it's an illusion. I'm not happy when I get that. Even though I play the game harder and harder, it seems to be the same outcome. I work with a lot of clients who they completely lack confidence. They quit. They're more victim mentality. And then I have other clients who are just so driven, and they're, gaining companies, or, they're extremely successful in sport and gain medals, but both at the end of the day are dissatisfied with their game. So one billionaire that I work with said he felt completely worthless and he would give away everything to be happy. Then I speak to another person who feels completely worthless, and they think that when they gain that money, then they will feel valuable. But that game is not It's not through working harder at, doing more, becoming better, but that is going to get you to be fulfilled or satisfied or peaceful or happy. You will constantly try and play the game like the VR game. And you can either quit it and just, I'm going to go live up in the mountains. There's no satisfaction there. Or you play the game harder and there's no satisfaction there, and you end up getting sick, or you lose everything. You lose your family. So I see that with my clients. I see that with a lot of people I talk with when I do my talks, and I see that with myself. So remember the VR game. You can either play the game harder or kind of just give up, or you have to go into the operating system and work on changing it. So I think I've explained that okay. Hopefully you've got that right. So we know, so what I'm putting forward is the game that we're playing of life, the playbook is, first of all, you try and you're constantly focused on gaining more or looking for peace or happiness and stuff, but no one ever gets there because of the game. It has certain rules to it. So what I want to talk about, the rules to the game. Well, one is playing the game harder isn't going to win it, or finding another guru or finding this religion. There's no way to find satisfaction and peace within the game, within that, playing that reality. Okay, so what I'm saying is we have to go and look at the coding. Okay, now in this example, the code is our conditioned mind. So when we're looking at the code of the game, like the VR example, what we're going to have to do is look at the coding that makes up our reality. And the coding of our mind is thoughts and beliefs and experiences and sensations and reactions. We are that mind that creates our reality. That you will have to observe for yourself, but in my experience, it creates reality. I use this whiteboard with my clients to show exactly how that happens. So that mind is deeply conditioned. It's through your ancestors and through culture and collective conditioning and all the traumas and the ugly stuff of humanity is within our mind. So how, there'll be people who say, you can control your mind. So just think positive thoughts, or just try harder, discipline, and then you can control that. That's not how, that's another rule. You cannot use the mind to change the mind. You cannot change the system from within the system that created it. Yeah. So that would be like having your VR set on, trying to change it within the game. So you have to realize that the mind, your mind, you have to realize that there are old conditioned programs in it that make up your game, just like the VR. So how do we know that we have, why am I saying that there are certain rules and they're glitchy? Well, we can see because the way we live our life is we see that we have limitations and we can never be happy, and we're always dissatisfied and we're always driven to do more. And there are these rules that govern us. And so when we start to observe it very closely, we see that the mind controls us. Okay, now if your attention span is starting to go away, it might be me, or it might be your mind going, don't look any further than this because this is dangerous to me. Here, word of warning, you have to take full responsibility for this work. If you're not interested in being free and taking full responsibility, go somewhere else. This video is not for you. Maybe I should have said that at the start. This is, if you're interested in freedom, you have to take full responsibility for your life. So nothing out in my life is their fault. It's all an internal game for me. So if I don't like someone's behavior and it triggers me, it's me. It's inside my game. So it's full responsibility, because my conditioning, my conditioned mind creates my reality. There's no separation. So now I'm going to mention someone who switched me on to this rule. This next rule is the only way to change that thing out there is to observe the habitual programming or the coding of you. You have to observe it. You have to observe it without reacting to it. Yeah. What I mean by that is, again, if you're in the game and you try and change the game, you're still part of the game. So if you want to change the game, you have to change the coding. You have to change the rules that control the game. That's your mind. Okay, so to change the mind, it has to be done through non-doing observation. You have to see the habitual patterns and behavior that run you. Yeah. So someone who I would recommend looking into is Krishnamurti, Jiddu Krishnamurti, who was a philosopher. He was a deep thinker about how the mind worked, and he observed it over a long period of time. A famous quote by him is, "The highest form of intelligence is to be able to observe your mind without commenting, or observe your thinking without commenting." And so this is completely contrary to what everyone does. So everyone's in their game, and they're trying to play the game, and they're completely asleep to the fact that it's a game. So what I'm talking about here, you may not get, and that's fine. But if you know that you create your reality through this game, then this is for you. So Krishnamurti said you had to observe your behavior. Now, one of his longtime friends and a big brain guy was David Bohm, who was a physicist and a philosopher, and they would do these talks, and they wrote a book together. And I saw that later in his life, I think Krishnamurti had died, that David Bohm had he critiqued his way of looking at the mind and how to change it. And so his critique, very simply put, was that he was over optimistic, that just observing your mind would get people to change, their self, to change the self and change the mind and the ego just by observing. And I've seen people critique, push back at me a little bit, not so much at me, but about this idea of observing, is because it's so difficult. He said it was too abstract and it needed making into more of a framework. I also found that with Krishnamurti's work, through studying it and through doing my own work, that if you just observe and tell people, observe your thinking, most people are completely lost. That's a fact. Even though that's what I did. So he said, all you have to do is observe your thinking without doing. So I did that. I observed and I thought, I'm not doing this right. And I observed me thinking, I'm not doing this right. But through observing, I saw that there was a pattern to the way our mind thinks to create the reality. And so what I did was I looked very closely at that pattern, and I started to look for it in my clients and draw it on the board with my clients. It started off very simple, but it got more and more sophisticated, this pattern. And I saw that there were 5 main programs that run the game, that run the mind. And I call them hamster wheels because they run just like a hamster wheel. And you can, if you look at yin and yang, sort of Taoist philosophy of the yang and the yin, positive, negative, and nature, how everything balances, that's how hamster wheels work. So on building upon from seeing my behavior, I was using, let's say, loss and gain. I was thinking, I need to gain a better body. I need to gain more money. Then I'll be safe. I need to gain. But I feel like but the more I try and gain, then I lose time with my family. I lose my way. I lose my motivation. I try and gain more motivation. I lose it. So I start to see I'm watching the coding that makes up my reality, and I see that it's simple loss and gain wording, thoughts that keep coming up, and beliefs around that. So I started to map it out. Then I saw another one, and I saw 5 main ones, and it helped me to see my behavior, to see a pattern to the behavior. So it wasn't just observe your behavior. It was like observe and now look for the hamster wheel to help me understand this, how simple these behaviors are. And then through observing that, I asked, where did these come from? And now I realize through studying Gabor Mate's work, he talks about the disconnect in childhood, that trauma of disconnect. And what I realize is that disconnect in early childhood that you don't need to go into creates a defense mechanism, which is the self. It identifies with these hamster wheels to try and be valuable and lovable and not to be rejected and be worthless. So I see that the programs were written before I was 4 years old, and there were 5 main ones. So now I look, when I'm observing my behavior, let's say I'm walking down the street and I saw a couple yesterday, true story, I saw a couple walking past my house and they'd been shit. A real asshole couple who had been kind of judgmental to me when I lived in another apartment for a couple of months over something. And I saw them and immediately my thought was, what dumbasses, or something like that. So I saw that there was in my game that these two popped up. What can I learn about my behavior from these two? What are they showing me? So I point my finger at them. There's 3 back, right? So I'm saying they're wrong, right? So I break it down. Simple. They're wrong. I'm right. So I judge them. I feel better. Right and wrong hamster wheel. So I immediately see them have the reaction. I take responsibility. If you don't want to, if you go with it, that's fine. But if you want to be free, you have to take responsibility. I took responsibility. I said, why am I judging them? Right, wrong hamster wheel. I know that was created when I was about 4. So I pick up 4-year-old Rob and go, hey, it's cool. That habit of thinking that way creates my reality. So I have to understand that that's a habit. If I don't question it, it just keeps continuing and my game continues the same way. So I have to observe that simple behavior. Why do I use hamster wheel? Because it is true. It works like that. What if you say, yeah, but it doesn't change? Well, it does. It's just you might have to do it a few times before the habit stops. If you go, oh, it's the hamster wheel once, and then you just follow the behavior and keep judging people and not taking responsibility, then it's not going to work. But the moment you realize that when you judge someone, it's old programming to defend yourself, and make yourself feel better that you're right and they're wrong. Once you see that, you can't keep doing it. It instantly shifts, okay? So I observe the behavior. I don't react. I don't continue with this VR reality of my life. I observe the coding that's creating that reality. And so what happens is these 5 programs that are set up a certain way, you're either jammed up on the left or on the right of the hamster wheel, yang, dominant, or yin, dominant. More victim, more winner, dominator. But both are screwed, both are imbalanced, both suffer. So I know where I am. I've looked. I know that those programs create my reality, and so they limit me and they hold me in place, and I know that's how I see the world through those 5 hamster wheels. So the more I can see them and balance them out, then I start to see the whole of reality, and the game becomes more vibrant and more open, and I can go to more levels. That's how you change. So yeah, that's kind of just I wanted to talk about this, David Bohm's criticism of Krishnamurti's work. There was a lack of systemic framework. Well, yes, I saw that. But Krishnamurti switched me on to observing, and I'm forever grateful to him. I needed a bit more of a framework, so I came up with these hamster wheels. I saw them, so they're there. You can see them, or you don't have to, but you got to do something, because you either play the external game or you play the internal game, 1 and 0. Matrix, or you wake up. So the matrix, or your external reality is seductive, and the drama and the worries and the fears and the struggles and the hero's journey and everything that's been conditioned. If you want to play that game, fine, but you can never be free playing that game. How do I know? Because I've done it, and I've suffered and suffered and suffered until I pain and overly sensitive and depression and anxiety and worry and lack of confidence and limitations, and I said, no more, I can't play this game anymore. When I realized that there was a way to be free from that conditioning, I said, I'm taking responsibility now. I'm not going to pass this on to my children. And for me, I want to be free. So it's up to you. The game's there. The playbook is there. I'm probably going to call my book The Playbook or something, The Game Within, because it's there. This is the greatest game to be played. The only game to be played is to take admin. Now, quick word of caution. If you play this game to win and to gain and to be more able and to be right and to gain status and validation and everything, that's not the game. That is, you're hooked in the hamster wheel of gain and loss. If you're doing it to feel less to feel less unable, that's still the game. Yes, will there be a little bit of the hamster wheels that'll start you off? Yes, but you have to see the whole of your hamster wheel mechanism to be free. People on the left usually are better at doing this. People on the right don't want to do this fully, and they're in denial because they think they're winning in the game. And maybe you are like billionaire and you're right up there, but you know deep down that there's something that is deeply missing, and you, because of your denial of your unableness, you will attract that usually in your body, pain that you can't get away from, illness, cancer, etc. That's what I've seen as a pattern of behavior. Or you'll have addictions. And people on the left, they'll just be addicted to victim, constantly dissatisfied, blaming others, not taking responsibility. So the two sides are, sides of a coin. You have to open yourself up to the other side. So if you're on the right, you need to be more okay with being unable, not run away from it so much, being okay with loss, being okay with the feminine. If you're jammed up on the left, you have to open yourself up to your ableness, and you'll, you open yourself up to that yang energy of doing. And at the end of the day, remember, this is children's program that was created for this game to be played, and the game cannot be won. And all we need to do is wake ourselves up and see the game, undo the trauma and the conditioning, so that we can finally get our needs met, which is why we created the game in the first place, because we didn't get our needs met of love, belonging, and connection, which is up there. Okay, so the game within is to be played. You can start it straight away. If you want more context, you can see more of my videos. You can join my newsletter. You can check out Krishnamurti. And remember, there's no one who can do this work for you. You have to do this yourself. Yes, you can do a session with someone that will speed things up and help you to see things more clearly. But deep down, you have to go through this yourself and see your own behaviors. And it's awesome. So you become sovereign and you become your own authority. So enjoy the game. Any questions or thoughts, pop them underneath. If you think this is a useful video, maybe share it, or especially like it. That will really help me. And have a great rest of the day. Cheers.